What's up, everybody? This is Robbie Yeager, and I'm back with another MCSC special report. I know it's been a while since you've seen my smiling face on this network. I've been pretty busy digging up stuff like this, for instance, what we're going to be talking about today. This is a story that actually broke last night, and I wrote a little bit more about it today, but I feel like it's deserving of the whole spectrum of attention, at least for people on the left, and especially people that are climate change activists and grassroots supporter of the Sunrise Movement. Case in point, FEC records show that on April 29th of 2020, so just a couple of months ago, the Sunrise Movement's PAC took $250,000 from George Soros's private super PAC, which is called Democracy PAC. And I'm probably going to run down the receipts on this, so just show you guys how I found this information and exactly what it means going forward, and exactly, you know, why this should be worrisome for people. And no, it's not your typical conspiracy talk when most people talk about George Soros. As a matter of fact, a lot of the valid criticisms of Soros and his, attempting to influence the grand scheme of our politics from both the federal, state, and municipal levels, because he does. And it's not just that, but how he, moves his money through the nonprofit sector to fund so many of these left-wing groups. It's not always based in New World Order anti-Semitism. I mean, I know a lot of people on the right go there. This has nothing to do with that. As a matter of fact, it's just very cut and dry, simple. George Soros is a billionaire, for sure. And we all know this. That's obvious, correct? Well, the Sunrise Movement has made a living off of bashing billionaires, and even going as far to literally say they should not exist. They put up a poll on Twitter, asked literally, should billionaires exist? There was two answers. One was no, and the other one was no. But it seems that only matters when it suits them. And the second thing about this is that George Soros is still a fund manager that holds, stock in several different problematic companies, especially if you are an environmental group. And we're going to get to all that. But first, you come to me for the receipts, and that's what I do. So let's go ahead and get to that right now. So as we can see, I've already pulled up the FEC website up there at the top, FEC. So yeah, we're looking at Sunrise PAC's receipts. This is the stuff that they've taken in over the course of the year so far. And so far, they've only reported through April, but that's all we need, because right here you can see Democracy PAC, recipient Sunrise PAC, 4/29/2020, and $250,000. Now, I think it should be worth noting here that Sunrise PAC has pulled in just about a little bit over like $14,000 over $1 million. So this $250,000 that Sunrise Movement has gotten from Democracy PAC accounts for 25% of their entire earnings for this entire election cycle. And on top of that, Sunrise Movement, may have given themselves $400,000. They might have moved it from their dark money arm or their 501c4 arm over to the PAC, but Democracy PAC is now their largest outside donor. But still, yeah, 25%. That's a huge chunk of their intake for the cycle so far. So you might be asking, okay, Democracy PAC sounds benign enough, right? So what's in it? Well, it's a good thing you ask, because here we are. This is their receipts page. And as you can see right here, they've taken in just over $40 million. Now, a lot of this, or some of this, 5 million, so let's say about 5.5 million of that 40 million has come from George Soros's actual pocket. He reached into his checkbook and wrote a check to this organization, or to this PAC. And I mean, to be quite honest with you, this PAC is his. I mean, it was started specifically for him. That's well documented. So, I mean, that's not just something I'm making up. I mean, that's obviously something that has been reported before. In the Fund for Policy Reform. So this is, well, let me backtrack. Obviously, most people that know about George Soros also know about the vast network of nonprofits that he runs called the Open Society. And they have various nonprofits, 501c3s, C4s, you name it. There are several. Some of them are easier to look into than others, and some of them aren't really openly part of the Open Society network, but only technically. Like if you look at their tax records, they'll name them as an affiliated organization, which Fund for Policy Reform is. And as a matter of fact, on their last tax returns filed for 2017 as the fiscal year that they cover. Both Soros and two of his sons sit on the board of the Fund for Policy Reform. So this is definitely just, him under the guise of, using one of his nonprofits to donate this money. So let's get that out of the way first. And, and obviously, if you want to learn more about them, you look up their tax ID number, which you can find right here. I got Influence Watch pulled up right here. It's a great resource for people that want to know about these nonprofits and, who funds them, who they fund, all that good stuff. So I definitely recommend you check this website out if you ever have any questions about any of this. But yeah, look that up. You can look up their tax returns on the IRS website using this number right here. But yeah, it's a sister nonprofit for the Open Society Foundations, and it's run by George Soros and funded by George Soros. Okay, so now we've got that stuff out of the way, right? We've seen the receipts, Democracy PAC, the Sunrise PAC, right there. And then we've also seen who funds Democracy PAC, and it's obviously George Soros. And it's nothing but Soros. This is his personal super PAC. Why is this a problem? Well, like I said earlier, the easy one is to say that Sunrise Movement, as apparently doesn't think billionaires should exist. They railed against Joe Biden ad nauseum over the course of the primaries about him taking money from billionaires and about how he's embracing super PAC support. And, all of this rhetoric just kind of falls empty when you're taking this amount of money in proportion to what you've taken in. Like $250,000 may not be a lot to George Soros, but it is a lot to the Sunrise Movement, and there's math to back that up. I mean, it's obviously they've taken in $1 million. 250,000 is a huge chunk of that, and by far their largest outside source of donations. I mean, it's just as simple. I mean, their largest outside single source of donations, I should say. But why is this problematic? Am I just being one of a right-wing conspiracy theorists? Do I think George Soros is starting the NWO to take over the world? Do I think he's trying to take over the world, take over the country? I'm not outwardly, but I mean, he is somebody that literally uses his vastly unlimited resources to influence elections on the federal, state, and municipal level throughout the entire country. So on a certain level, is he trying to, his money influences the entire scope of our politics. I mean, every senator in our state, or the guy running for our Senate in our state, our governors, has taken donations from Soros. People say he's just a guy that donates to liberal causes, but he's not donating to liberal causes. He's not donating to progressive causes. Because Amy McGrath is one of his favorite politicians. And I mean, how could you not? I mean, yeah, and Sunrise Movement has come out against Amy McGrath because she's such a garbage candidate. She's such a garbage Democrat, but this is the standards that people will sink to in order to get rid of Mitch McConnell. But I'm digressing from my point. The point being is that it's not about New World Order. It's not about Illuminati. Yes, he's a billionaire. Yes, he flaunts his wealth. Yes, he throws it around like it's nothing and tries to influence elections, from the ground up all across the country, and succeeds. He influences a bunch of the nonprofits that you see running around here: Demos, Working Families Party, Center for Popular Democracy, Center for American Progress. All of these, while may not be technically Soros-run organizations, they definitely are tied to him. I mean, hell, he invented Democracy Alliance as basically an anonymous network of billionaires to get together in secret rooms and have secret meetings and conferences and decide where to pool their money and resources and donate by the millions to a lot of these organizations. They've started dark money slush funds like the 1630 Fund to basically put their money in without having to put their name on it, not have to disclose any of the donors, and then use that money to donate it to other organizations. And those organizations will take that money and donate it around. I mean, it's look, campaign finance, nonprofit finance, quote unquote philanthropy is a racket by and large, if you do it right, and he does it right. But that's still not the biggest problem. Why is it a problem for Sunrise Movement, being an environmental group, to take money from George Soros? Well, we can look at the Securities and Exchange Commission for our answer for that. this is the 13F report. This is a quarterly report filed by Soros Fund Management. This is dated May 15th of this year. This is the latest one that has been filed. The reporting period, however, it was 3/31. So March 31st is the end of this reporting period. But as of March 31st, right? So less than a month before they made this donation, Soros Fund Management has got some pretty problematic investments if you are an environmentalist. Let's start with the number one contributor to climate change, according to quite a few studies, is the U.S. military. And what's this right here? Well, that's one of the biggest supporters of our military. That would be Boeing, aerospace weapons company. They make more than just build 747s, folks. Okay. They are definitely one of the biggest players in the military industrial complex. So that would be problematic for anybody. You never want to see that, right? But let's stick with the climate change thing, even though, like I said, lots of stories say that that's a problem. The U.S. military is the largest contributor to climate change world over. So you've got one of the largest contributors to that sector in your portfolio. That's never a good look. Now, look, there's probably going to be quite a few things I skip by, but there's a few things that you guys need to see. Dominion Energy. I live in North Carolina. A lot of you, if I have any viewers in North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia especially, you know who Dominion Energy is. You know, they're a utilities company. And they like to call themselves, and see, this is the thing, folks, they understand, like they're hip to what we are looking for. Like they don't want to be called fossil fuel executives anymore, fossil fuel companies. No. Now they're utility companies, right? Because they provide more than just fossil fuels. Sure. However, Dominion Energy is in an agreement, and as a matter of fact, has I think like a 30-something% split. Correct me, I could be wrong on the percentage, but they are definitely stakeholders in the Atlantic Coast Pipeline that is going to be running through like 4 different states down the East Coast, and that includes Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, I think parts of West Virginia, and maybe even parts of northern Georgia. It's an oil and gas pipeline. You know, you own stock in a company that owns a pipeline. Now owns a pipeline that's going to be running through a lot of Native American land, mind you, on through these states. Because trust me, over here on the East Coast, this is where a lot of the atrocities were happening. Like off the gate, people got off the boat and started slaying the inhabitants as soon as they got here. We've just, the American government and the settlers and colonizers have done just damage, irreparable damage, and we're still doing it. And Dominion Energy is part of that. And you know what? That's not the only company that he's got shares of stock in. And as a matter of fact, it's still not the only company that has destroyed, precious sacred land in order to build a pipeline. As a matter of fact, he possibly has stock in the most notorious of them all, which is Energy Transfer Partners right here. He's got over $2 million in assets from Energy Transfer Partners. Now, people can sit here and say, oh, well, his portfolio was worth over $1.9 billion. That's just a drop in the bucket to him. It's a drop in the bucket to him. It's not a drop in the bucket to me. It's not a drop in the bucket to the water protectors that, were getting gassed while they were protesting Energy Transfer, this corporation running a pipeline through their sacred burial sites and other lands that they owned. And that $2 million, don't sit here and try to split hairs with me and tell me that it's not a big deal, because it's absolutely a big deal. You've got money in your account that you made profiting off of the appreciation of your stock shares in not only Energy Transfer and Dominion Energy and Boeing, but one more. Let's keep it on Standing Rock for a minute. So Sunrise Movement is an environmental group taking money from a guy that has investments in not 1, not 2, but 3 oil and pipeline companies. KKR has also stakes in a couple of other pipelines. Now, they've been catching a lot of grief over the last year about their pipeline investments and other investments they made, which we'll talk to in a second. And there is conflicting reporting on whether or not they've actually emptied out these accounts that they have these investments in. KKR, or Colbert Kravis Roberts, was also in a joint venture with FS Investments to finance the company Safariland, whose tear gas was used to suppress the protesters and the water protectors at Standing Rock. So not only are you an environmental group taking money from a man that has shares of stock in a company that built the Dakota Access Pipeline, but you also taking money from the same man who has money invested in the company that financed the manufacturers of the tear gas used to suppress them, used to suppress the protesters for the Dakota Access Pipeline. Look, people, it's sad. It's something that you don't like to see ever. But this is something that I've been following along for forever now. And, I try to go to the people that don't want me or any of us to see where their money comes from. I mean, that's what I do. I mean, if you follow me on Twitter, if you follow me on RockFan, if you've ever read any of my stuff on Medium, if you've ever seen any of my appearances with anybody, I mean, we're always talking about the money, because that's what it's about, man. People are going to try to co-opt your movement. Now, look, if you've heard any of my previous reporting on the Sunrise Movement, you would know that there has been shady stuff in the past, and there has been like a trickle-down effect of billionaire and dark money getting into the Sunrise Movement. This is the first time that they've actually kind of just laid it out on the table and said, hey, yeah, we're taking this money. I have reached out to Sunrise Movement through several channels requesting a comment, and as of right now, they have not they haven't gotten back to me, and who knows if they will. But I have requested a comment on several different channels, been as professional, as polite as I can, and if I do get a comment or response, I will post it in full. I'm all about transparency. So if if I'm reporting on you and you have something to say, just like when Rokana did it, I gave his response airtime, and I would definitely do that for Sunrise Movement if they want to explain why they think it's acceptable to take this money. Not only does it just come off supremely hypocritical from their stance during the primaries and about billionaires shouldn't exist, and that Joe Biden is just all about his corporate benefactors and this, that, and the third, which is true, which is all true. He's definitely a yes man to the corporate sector, but it's hard for me to reconcile having that stance and then turning around and taking 25% of your entire PAC's proceeds so far coming from not just a billionaire, but like the billionaire. You know what I mean? Like the one billionaire that everybody is going to single out as soon as you like mention his name. Like, that's ballsy. And it doesn't really make much sense to me unless you're full of shit, So look, I've got my qualms with the Sunrise Movement already because I've seen them not really push for climate change so much as they pushed for the Green New Deal. And I'm sorry, folks, one does not necessarily mean the other. But they don't seem to be open to any other form of climate change other than the Green New Deal. And that's telling to me, because they don't want to actually, they're not even open to a better plan should one come available. I don't even think that they would take it, because the Green New Deal has got so much corporate interest in it. And trust me, there's an entire discussion to be had about the new green market and the businesses that are putting their money in hopes that it blows up. And yes, there are people that you wouldn't expect to want to invest in clean energy they're doing that anyway, to try to make money. If it's not to save the planet, it's to line their pockets, because they know that's where the world is moving eventually. I don't want to get too far off subject here. But the long story short is Sunrise Movement taking $250,000 from George Soros is problematic on a bunch of different levels, primarily because of his investments. Folks, whenever I come out and I say something about Soros or anything like that, a lot of people are going to look at me like Alex Jones. It's fine. And that's my problem with people like Jones, is because people like Jones that just shout every nonsense conspiracy they can think about Soros, or the people like him are the ones that take away from legitimate reporting on Soros, and people that have legitimate gripes with the way he uses his money and the investments that he makes. So I would just, ask you to keep an open mind when you're looking at this information and realize that there are problems with an environmental group taking money from a man. Just take the name out of it. There's an environmental group taking money from a man that invests in oil and pipeline companies. If you even take the names out of it, just that sentence alone is problematic. And especially if you are a supporter of Sunrise Movement, if you are obviously a climate change activist and somebody that, actually cares about your movement, be aware that this is how movements get co-opted. They always do. So follow the money, folks. I mean, that's all I can say. Thank you guys for tuning in. Tell me what you think in the comments. Go ahead, hit me up in the comments, hit me up on Twitter, hit me up on Rockfin. It's at Rob Littlefire all the way through. You can stay tuned to MCSC Network for more breaking news from myself and from Niko and the Convo Couch. You know how we do. But until then, guys, you keep doing what you do, and I'll keep doing what I do. Peace.